I want to tell you about a patient of mine named Dorothy. She is 103 years old. In her century on this earth, she has buried 3 husbands and 2 children. And recently, she told me something that you will never hear in a standard medical textbook. She looked at me with clear, sharp eyes and said, "Doctor, most people are not living, they are sleepwalking." She wasn't talking about dementia. She was talking about something far more dangerous. She was talking about the trance of busyness. To explain this, I need to take you back to a specific Friday morning, October 14th, 1955. Dorothy was 33. Her husband, Robert, was leaving for his shift at the steel mill. He stood at the door, lunchbox in hand, waiting for a kiss goodbye. But Dorothy was busy. She was scrubbing a stain out of a tablecloth. She was frustrated. She was running late. She shouted from the kitchen, "Just go, Robert, I'll see you tonight." She didn't look up. She didn't watch him leave. She just heard the door click shut. That click was the last time she ever heard him. There was an accident at the mill that afternoon. Robert never came home. Now, medically speaking, death is inevitable. We cannot control it. But Dorothy's regret, the ghost that has haunted her for 70 years, is not that he died. It is that in their final moment together, she wasn't there. Her body was in the room, but her mind was on a tablecloth. She treated a miracle, the presence of the man she loved, as an annoyance. She traded a holy moment for a household chore. And as I look at my patients today, I see you doing the same thing. I see a generation that is addicted to busyness. You wear your stress like a badge of honor. You tell everyone, "I am so busy, I am swamped, I am overwhelmed." You think being busy makes you important, but clinically, being busy is not a virtue. It is an anesthetic. It is a drug you use to numb yourself to the passing of time. Neuroscience calls this the default mode network. It is your brain's autopilot. When you are busy, when you are rushing, your brain stops recording new memories. It assumes that today is just like yesterday, so it stops paying attention. It deletes the taste of your coffee. It deletes the face of your spouse. It deletes the sound of your children laughing. It compresses your life into a blur of motion. Think about your last week. Can you remember vividly what you had for lunch on Tuesday? Can you remember the specific words your partner said to you on Thursday morning? Or is it all just a gray fog of getting things done? If you cannot remember, it is because you were not there. You were in the busy trap. You were mentally living in the future, worrying about a meeting that hadn't happened yet, while the present moment, the only moment you actually possess, evaporated. This is the great tragedy of the modern brain. We are so terrified of silence, so terrified of our own mortality, that we fill every second with noise and activity. But in doing so, we are speeding up the clock. We are pressing the fast-forward button on our own existence. So, why does time seem to speed up as we get older? Why did the summers of your childhood feel endless, while your 60s feel like they passed in a blink? It is not just a feeling, it is a biological mechanism in the hippocampus, and if you don't understand it, you cannot stop it. Let's look at the compression of time and why your routine is killing you.
Why your routine is killing you. Let me ask you a question that might seem trivial, but is actually diagnostic. Think back to when you were 8 years old. Do you remember how long a summer holiday felt? It felt like an eternity. 6 weeks of school holidays felt like a lifetime. You learned to ride a bike, you scraped your knee, you discovered a new creek, you made a new friend. Every day was new. Every hour was packed with data. Now, think about the last 10 years of your life, from age 50 to age 60. For many of you, that decade vanished in a snap of the fingers. You woke up one day and suddenly you were 10 years older. Why? Is the clock moving faster? No, The physics of time has not changed, but the biology of your perception has collapsed. This phenomenon is controlled by a small, seahorse-shaped structure deep in your brain called the hippocampus. This is your memory recorder, and the hippocampus has a very strict rule for saving energy. It only records novelty. It only writes down things that are new, dangerous, or emotional. When you are a child, everything is new. The world is high definition. Your brain is writing down terabytes of data every single day. Because you have so much memory stored, when you look back, the time feels long. It feels rich. But as you age, you settle into a routine. You drive the same car. You take the same route to work. You sit in the same chair. You talk to the same people about the same complaints. Your brain looks at this repetitive data and says, I already know this. I don't need to save it. So it stops recording. This is why you can drive home from work and not remember a single second of the journey. You were on autopilot. Your brain literally deleted the commute to save space. Now apply that to your entire life. If you live the same year over and over again, if you do not inject novelty into your days, your brain will compress those 365 days into a single memory file. You didn't live a year. You lived one day, repeated 365 times. This is why you feel like life is accelerating. You are not running out of time. You are running out of memories. But there is a modern accelerant that is making this even worse. Something that Dorothy didn't have in 1955, the screen. In my practice, I see patients who are physically present but neurologically absent. They are sitting at dinner with their spouse, but they are scrolling through news about a war in another country. They are pushing their grandchild on a swing, but they are checking their email. This is called continuous partial attention, and it is a disaster for your perception of time. When your attention is fragmented, the hippocampus cannot lock in the memory. You are skimming the surface of your own life. You are there, but you are not recording that you are there. So when you look back at the end of the month is blank. It is empty, because you gave your attention to a device instead of the reality in front of you. Dorothy told me, the tragedy isn't that life is short. The tragedy is that we forget to show up for it. She was right. We are sleepwalking into the grave. We are waiting for a special occasion to start living. We are waiting for retirement. We are waiting for the weekend. But while we wait, the biological clock is ticking. And if you knew the actual math of how much time you have left, you would never look at a phone again. Let me show you the numbers. Let me show you the tail end theory. Because you think you have years left with your loved ones, but statistically, you might only have weeks. You would never look at a phone again. We live in a state of delusion. We think, I am only 40. My parents are only 60. I have 20 years left with them. And mathematically, you might be right. But experientially, you are disastrously wrong. This is a concept called the tail end, and it is the most terrifying piece of math I have ever learned. Let's assume your parents live in another city. Let's assume you visit them twice a year. If they live for another 20 years, you think you have 20 years of relationship left, but you don't. You see them twice a year. 20 years times 2 visits is 40 visits. That's it. You don't have 20 years. You have 40 dinners. You have 40 conversations. You can fit the entire remainder of your time with them into a single shoebox of memories. And if you are busy on your phone during those dinners, if you are arguing about politics, if you are rushing to leave, you are burning one of those precious 40 tickets, and you are never getting it back. Dorothy understood this math too late. Her son, William, died of cancer at 45. She told me about the last time she saw him before he got sick. I was rushing, she said. I was worried about the laundry. I gave him a quick hug and said I'd call him later. Later never came. She spent 70 years replaying that hug in her mind. 70 years wishing she had held on for 5 more seconds. Wishing she had looked him in the eye and memorized his face. This applies to everything you love. If you are 60 years old and you love reading books, and you read 5 books a year, you don't have forever to read. Statistically, you might only read about 100 more books in your entire life. That is a small shelf. Are you going to fill that shelf with garbage, or are you going to read the masterpieces? If you have a dog you love and you take him for a walk every Sunday, and the dog is 10 years old, you might only have 50 more walks, 50 more times to watch him chase a ball, 50 more times to see him happy. Are you going to spend those walks listening to a podcast, or are you going to watch the dog? This is not about being morbid. This is about being awake. The Stoics called this memento mori, remember you will die. But I prefer to call it memento vivere, remember you must live. Because when you realize the scarcity of the time, the busyness evaporates, the stress about the traffic jam disappears, the anger at your boss disappears, because you realize you are spending your limited currency on things that do not matter. Dorothy told me, the problem is you think you have time. We treat time like it is infinite, like a bottomless bank account. But every morning you are waking up with one less day in the account. One less Sunday, one less Christmas, one less chance to say, I love you. And unlike money, you cannot earn more time. Once it is spent, it is gone. So, how do we stop the bleeding? How do we slow down the clock? How do we make sure that when we reach the end, we don't have a list of regrets like Dorothy? We need a protocol, a daily practice to force your brain out of autopilot and into the vivid, painful, beautiful reality of the now. Let's look at the protocol of return and the power of the last time.
Force your brain out of autopilot and into the vivid, painful, beautiful reality of the now. The technique, the return. Dorothy gave me a piece of advice that changed my life. She said, "Doctor, don't try to be present all day. You will fail. The brain is designed to wander." She was right. Neuroscience confirms this. Your mind will drift into the future. It will worry. It will plan. The victory is not in staying focused perfectly. The victory is in the moment you notice you have drifted, that split second when you catch yourself staring at your phone while your child is talking, and you put the phone down and you look them in the eye. That is the return. That is the muscle you must build. Every time you return to the room, every time you return to the breath, you are reclaiming a piece of your life from the void. You are telling your hippocampus, record this. This matters. The ritual, the last time visualization. But to make the return powerful, you need a trigger. You need a psychological shock to wake up your dopamine receptors. I prescribe a Stoic exercise called negative visualization. It is simple. Whatever you are doing right now, imagine it is the very last time you will ever do it. If you are drinking a cup of coffee, imagine it is the last cup of coffee you will ever taste. Suddenly, the bitterness becomes rich. The warmth becomes comforting. You savor it. If you are hugging your spouse goodbye in the morning, imagine it is the last time you will ever feel their arms. Suddenly, the hug is not a routine. It is a desperate, beautiful embrace. You hold on for 3 extra seconds. You smell their perfume. You feel their heartbeat. Your brain floods with chemicals. It writes a high-definition memory.
You have just slowed down time. The conclusion. We spend our lives waiting for the big moments, the weddings, the graduations, the vacations. But Dorothy taught me that life does not happen in the big moments. Life happens in the Tuesday afternoons. It happens in the quiet drive to the grocery store. It happens in the bedtime story you are too tired to read. These are the bricks that build the house of your memory. And if you throw them away because you are busy, you will end up with no house. You will end up with a pile of rubble. Dorothy is 103. She knows her calendar is almost full. She knows that every sunrise she sees might be the last one. But you are arguably in more danger than she is, because you think you have time. You think later is a real place on the calendar. I am here to tell you, as a doctor and as a human being, later is a lie. Later is where dreams go to die. Later is where apologies go to be forgotten. There is no later. There is only now. And now is slipping through your fingers as you listen to my voice. So I have a prescription for you today. It is not a pill. I want you to turn off this video. I want you to find the person you love the most. I want you to look at them, really look at them as if you might never see them again. And I want you to be there, fully, completely, without distraction. Do not be busy. Be alive.